What's up guys? You're probably here because you lost your Surron key. Today I'm going to show you guys how to hot wire your bike so you can not only ride today, but I'm also going to show you how to install the ignition key switch and the battery lid switch as well. So that way you can get your bike functioning back to normal. But I did want to go on a ride, so I figured out how to hot wire the bike. And I'm going to show you guys how I did that. First you got to undo these two Allen screws. Tiny little Allen key. So when you go on a ride, make sure you bring that. But you undo that, you'll get inside, and if you have a situation like me where your battery was not in the bike when you lost the key, you're not going to be able to open this battery lid, right? So in order to open this lid, all you do is reach under right here and push an Allen key. Have the hook facing like that, and then you're just going to want to push down on the lever, and this lever is inside, and that will move this back, and that will allow the battery tray to open. Then you can put your battery in there, and then turn your breaker off, and then I'm going to show you guys how we hot wired it now. You got your ignition going down back into this cable, and you won't have this cable dangling off, but you see these two cables, you're going to separate those, and then you're going to want to take like a speaker wire or just some thin wire. Doesn't need to be thick at all. And all I did was stuff each end of this wire that I trimmed the edges off, and I stuffed that into the negative and the positive of this cable that I'm pointing to, not the ignition, but this one. And then in order to keep them in there, I just put this ignition's connector back on, so that way it's nice in there and secure. And I don't know why we used two wires here. We could have just used one wire and looped it back in here, but we actually used two, put one in each one, and then we just taped it at the end. But you could just use one wire and not have to tape the end here. But that's pretty much it. You just put it in the negative and the positive of this one, and then you close it up. And then when you turn the breaker on, which the breaker can be accessed from here if your battery's stuck in there, so you can access it right there. Turn the breaker on, and voila, the bike is on. So now you have a fully functional bike, just like that. So now we're going to show you guys how to install the actual key ignition and the battery lid switch. Alright, so the first step of getting this out is to push these little push pins down on each side, I would think, something like that. So we're going to do that right now. So now we'll just disconnect it and we'll install the new one. And if you did hot wire your bike, make sure you turn the breaker off before you pull this cable out, or there might be some sort of electric spark, just so you know. So all I had to do was rip the cable out, and it actually separated both of these connectors without even having to click the pin in. So there you go. That's how you know you did it right. And now that we got it disconnected, we're going to pop this through and get it out of there. Voila. And then when you pop it back in, you might want to make sure the bottom says ignition, or the stock ones say Surron, and it's facing upwards. So just make sure ignition or Surron faces upwards if you want the key to turn the correct way. Doesn't really matter though. Alright, so we ended up having to go get some sandpaper, and we had to file this entire unit down about a whole millimeter, which took actually quite a bit of time. So I'll link a different one in the description that you probably won't have to sand down, hopefully. It still works just fine. And we got that connected, and then we also connected these back up. And if you ended up disconnecting this because you were struggling to get this in, the green goes to the gold and the black goes to the silver. So there's like a silver lead and a gold lead. And now we can just shove those cables back in there and close this back up because we're all set for there. Also, if your breaker's already on or if it's not on, you can take this out, switch it on, and turn on the bike with the battery in it and just make sure your USB port works before you close and lock this up. I'll turn the ignition on. Boom. Bike turns on. Ignition's good. Blue light on the USB means it's powered. All set. Alright, so now we gotta do this battery latch here. And the only way to get to that is by opening the lid. So if your battery was already in there and you lost your key, you're kind of out of luck and you're going to have to destroy this by dremeling across it or figuring out some way to get that latch to open under there. Maybe jamming something, maybe taking the seat off and jamming something under there will get it unlocked. I'm not sure, but luckily my battery wasn't in there when I lost my key. So what I did when I jerry-rigged it by hot wiring it, I took the latch off up here, this little latch, took that off. So yeah, I zip tied it and that kept the battery shut. Once you're in there like this, now you're going to want to take off this bolt right here, which I already did. It's going to be one of these smaller ones. And then same on the other side right here, which I already did. And then under this right here, underneath the bike, there's two of these larger screws which go right there. And then after that we need to take the seat off as well. And then you'll use a tool like this, little pry tool, and you're gonna go up under these three that are under the seat, and they look like this. And you want to pry in between this part and this part. That way you pull it out as basically two parts. And then when you go back in, you just put it like that and shove them back in. Once you do that, this just pops right down. Now you have access to your 10mm, I believe, screws. So we're going to get a socket wrench and undo those 4 bolts. And when you take those off, be sure you don't lose the washer as well. Alright, so we got those 4 bolts out. Should just be able to lift the seat right off now, no problem. Looks like I got some work to do on this seat. Anyways, now we're under here. We have access to this. All we did to pull this off was get it unstuck on this part, and then it was stuck underneath this as well. It goes underneath this, and then all you gotta do is use a 10mm socket and undo these 2 right here. Alright, once we undid those 2 bolts, this just popped right off. Alright, so now's a good time to clean your bike if you would like. Cleaned underneath everything, sprayed everything down, and now I got this part in. Make sure it's under this little part right there, and then make sure the lock is in place. So I'm going to start with these 2 bolts, got those in there. Next up I'm going to go underneath this gray part, and there's 2 larger bolts right there. Alright, so I just put the seat back on. Make sure when you're putting these bolts back on that you attach your fender straight to your seat and then you put the bolts through. That way your subframe is supporting your fender. And then you got the 2 bolts up there and these 2 bolts right here. So now we're just going to take our prong like that, shove it in the hole, and push it through. And boom, as you can see, they should be nice and flush like that. So if you have some that just went all the way through and are way too bent out like that, Unicycle does sell brand new ones that are super easy to install. These ones aren't pushed out at all, so they will just pop right in. All of these bolts secured. Now make sure you retightened these 2 right here, which keep this plate in place. Alright, we got the bike all back together now. I'm just going to show you guys the battery lid works. I do kind of like this mechanism because it doesn't have the standard Surron keys. This way I can just go get a key like this copied somewhere. And that way I can just have tons of copies instead of 2 of the proprietary Surron ones. But as you can see, battery latch comes right up. Ignition switch turns the bike right on. Now you have a fully functional bike again. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, thumbs up the video. You know the deal. Make sure you subscribe. Peace out.